All right. Good evening there. So, yeah, music. Week 10. That's all there in the title. And I also, in the description, put a little bit. Yeah, it's kind of an odd week. For whatever reason, when it came time to actually take a look at new music last week, I just didn't really jump into it. I kind of decided to spend a little bit more time looking at things from weeks past that I had been not ignoring, but also just not like fully getting around to. And as a result, yeah, I came back, listened to a bunch of smaller releases and a lot of stuff that just really small names, small artists. So, which is good. I always like when we have that type of stuff. Just kind of partially for myself, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are five EPs this week. 5 EPs, 1, 2, 3 mini albums, and then I think 4 full lengths. So a pretty, or maybe 5 full lengths. There are 13 releases this week, and my math is garbage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, five full lengths. So 13 releases, which is, I've said in the past that I'm going to try this year to keep it to 10. But EPs go pretty quickly, honestly, and so it's easy to get through a lot of them. And also, yeah, I don't know. I just listened to a bunch of stuff this last week. So that I don't spend forever doing this evening, I am going to go ahead and throw us right into it. Just as always, starting out from, I try to start with EPs, shorter releases first, and move to longer length ones. But if there are some shorter releases that I enjoyed a little bit more, then I'll save them for further in the lineup. I think that's it. Yeah. Anyway, let's just get into it. So turn off that, and yeah, we're good to go. Okay. So up first, we have, and it's kind of, I will say, it is largely a gentle week. We do have a few metal releases. They are going to be coming here pretty soon at the start, and then there will be more rock later on. But the metal stuff is here towards the beginning. This is not it though. We will ease our way into this. So the first released here is the EP Vast Infinities by the artist Nocow. I featured Nocow last year. He released an album. I don't remember the name of it right now. It was yeah, this one. t.r.o.e. I don't know what that is, but anyway. And it was pretty good. This is different from his release last year. This is kind of a bouncy, futuristic, Detroit adjacent techno, I would say. It wanders into it's got a lot of the dreamy synth pads in there as well. So it's not just a knockoff of the Spotify doesn't work well in Russia, but I don't have any problems with it. So I think it has to do with your account. I'm just going to say that. Also, I do want to say, Mr. Risa Games pointed this out. The reason that I use Spotify is twofold. First of all, I absolutely hate Russian streaming services now. Just because Yandex refuses to allow you to add whole albums to a playlist, which makes it really, really difficult for me to curate the playlist that I have so that I can continue to I'm not going to bookmark 50 albums each month. That's idiocy. So just the fact that the Russian IT industry has its head so far up its ass that it actually unprogrammed the ability to do that. God, I love ripping on Yandex. It's so incredible to see how god awful that company has slid, or the direction they're sliding in. But so yeah, Spotify technically isn't available in Russia. However, if you are Russian, yeah, I'll be completely honest. I don't have a subscription, and I do get ads from time to time. Karozik, welcome. I do get ads on Spotify from time to time, but that's when I have the VPN on. And what's odd is when I don't have the VPN on, I don't have issues. I don't know. Yeah, it's a bit of a thing. These are obviously all Russian artists, so if there is something here, you can find the title. Like, all of the names are down below also. The reason I use Spotify too is that by and large, although I know probably a good percentage of the audience is Russian, the goal is also that it's easy for non-Russian speakers to find. So for example, if I have an album, for example, like one that I have later on, such as Задача Трёх, as a Russian, you can easily type in Задача Трёх into Yandex Music or Vkontakte Music or Kion or whatever the hell service you use here in Russia, and you'll be able to find that album here in Russia. If you're an English speaker and you like the music that I'm talking about and I don't include a Spotify link, you're shit out of luck. Like, there's no way in hell you're going to figure out how to type Cyrillic to find that music. So anyway, yeah, it is really unfortunate that Spotify has had problems. It's also really unfortunate that a lot of these songs now are going to be heavily censored due to the new law that went into effect on March 1st, where you can't mention narcotics, or now they even seem to be going after swear words. That does, I think, affect Spotify too. I talked about this just the other day, where the record companies are the legal entities that own the rights to the music, unfortunately, and so they are the ones who censor it and upload it to all the platforms. So, yeah. Anyway, Gustav R. Little P. Oh, yeah. But anyway, getting into Nocow, got off on a bit of a tangent, but that's okay, because it is actually connected to all of this. It is connected to music, so I'm here for it. It's a lot different from Nocow's release last year. It is a lot more relaxed. And on this release, the artist does the vocals. Like, last time around, there really weren't vocals, or last thing that I heard from this artist, he didn't really have vocals. Here, it's got a lot of that really kind of hushed, borderline fragile vocals. Kind of is a little reminiscent of early James Blake. And one of the kind of, I don't know, like one of the stars of the Russian indie electronic scene, Moo Juice, there's a little bit of that energy on this release here too. So album artwork, kind of a miss, but yeah, let me just get into it. Like, that little bouncy synth has a little bit of, I love, there's a group, Drexcia, and if you've never heard of them, check out Drexcia, D-R-E-X-I-C-Y-A, C-I-Y-A. I don't know, you'll figure it out. And it's got a lot of that energy, but this is, kind of got a little bit of the bouncy, but you can hear the synth pads in there too. Yeah, it's got the, like, that, for a long time, and I'm still not like a super deep electronic music head, but this is as far as I've been able to parse over the years. That cyberpunk, futuristic, retro-futuristic sound is like the Detroit sound in a lot of ways. And there are a lot of artists who can do some really interesting stuff with it, so. My volume is super high. his yeah, I will agree a little bit with Kadjo there, where he maybe could have gone with a specific vocalist, but I do have to point out that, like, again, Moo Juice and James Blake are both electronic musicians who do their own vocals, and they're not like necessarily, well, like James Blake was heavy into autotune at the beginning of his career. I always kind of enjoyed Roykskop vocals, so maybe that's just me. I'll also give Nocow the benefit of the doubt here, in the sense that I think this is maybe his first release where he does vocals. I don't know. It's the first that I've heard, and you know, it takes a little bit of time to develop it. So if this is something that he plans to do further in the future, I hope he does do a little vocal work. It is a bit rough. Yeah, I do think that's fair. But I think overall it works. And I think if you listen to the full 5 tracks, it's very short, it's an EP. It does try to have that, like I said, that really delicate, fragile thing. And so the awkward vocals do kind of work in that context, right? Of this, well, yeah, there's a fragility there, I guess is what it's going for. So I don't know. It's again, worth a listen. It's pretty good. It grew on me. When I first listened to it as well, the vocals were kind of just like, man, I don't know about this. But I came back to it, I gave it another spin, I was just like, yeah, it's okay, it works. It kind of works. So that is the EP Vast Infinities by the artist Nocow. Again, man, the album artwork feels like, I don't even know. Anyway, moving on. We have another great album artwork here. With this is the EP Zamok, or Zamok. I think Zamok is what they're going for. The song, I probably should have listened to the lyrics in the song, by the artist, or by the group Aparte. This is a weird one. It's 4 tracks, but it's really only 3 tracks of music. The first track is this spoken word story about a dream. But it works because that's kind of what the next 3 tracks feel a little bit. This is indie electronic music. It's got female vocals that fit well, I think, right? Fit better with the music than, let's say, the last vocals. It feels like the type of music that Pitchfork would have really been in love with about 15 or so years ago. But it's also the sound that I would say in the intervening years has fallen a bit out of favor. So it's not something that I've heard in some time. Listening to this, it reminded me so much of an artist, of a group from like about 15 years ago, and I still cannot figure out who it is, but maybe somebody else has a better idea. I think it's borderline trip hop as well, right? It's got a little bit of that energy here too. This part right here reminds me so much of some song from like 15 or so years ago, but I could not figure out what it was. Yeah, it's very trip hop, but it reminds me of a Radiohead song. What that? I can't think. It reminds me of a Radiohead song off of like Kid A. A lot of Radiohead references in the last few months. reminded me a little bit of Everything in Its Right Place by Radiohead, I think. I think that's what it was. Yeah, everything in the right place, yeah. But, like, it's one of those sounds that I feel like I haven't exactly heard in a long time. It feels like in 2026 a little bit like a throwback sound. And I don't know, it's nice. It's the first release from this little group here. It's one of the Radiohead songs. We just listen to the Radiohead albums all the way through, and you don't really think too much about the track titles. You just lose yourself in the flow of the songs. So that's also totally normal. I love the vocals here. I think the vocals mix just perfectly with everything that's going on in these tracks. So yeah, it's 3 tracks. Again, the first track is just this spoken word. Where he's just, замок, right? Where he's describing a dream, and there are these kind of atmospheric instruments in the background. So it sets the atmosphere, I guess. But yeah, it's still kind of a fun, very short release, but it is one of those releases that if I see something come through by this group in the future, then it's going to kind of, like set off a little bell in my head and be like, oh, yeah, check this out, top priority. So that is the EP Zamok by the group A Part. I don't know. Album artwork, kind of weird again too, but I guess that's what we're going with. Okay. Now, I'm giving everyone a fair warning here. This album, or this release and the next one, are in kind of the metal end of things. So if that's not your thing, you can lower the volume a little bit. This first one here, naша, I got to switch over to Russian. So it's by the group North Migration, and the album, this mini album, I will call it, is наша жизнь, только снится. Like, our life is but a dream. Something along those lines. Probably a little bit more poetic than it deserves to be. But yes, I saw a lot of talk about this album with the post-hardcore tag. And that does fit with the song structure and the instrumentation. But the other tag I saw used with this release a lot was blackened screamo, which sounds horrible. And if you're not a fan of metal, and even if you're a fan of metal, it might be pretty horrible. And that's kind of what you get beat across the head with again and again over this short runtime. If you do like this type of music, or you're on the cusp, if you enjoy something a little bit more intense, then there is actually something kind of hypnotic. I'm not a screamo fan, right? Screamo is very much alive and well in Russia in 2026, and yeah, this is just further proof of that, right? It's kind of like the Russian emo scene, I guess, or the Russian emo is very much alive and well here in all of its various forms, and screamo just trying to take that sound and make it harsher. So I guess I'm going to just, oh God, we'll go here. Get ready. Be warned. Sounds kind of emo-y, but So it does have the balance. It does have the balance there. Again, I'll leave it there. I don't think it's a very niche genre, but I do think if you are into, again, if that's something that's up your alleyway, then it's definitely worth a shot. Got kind of the off the wall, slightly more post-hardcore song structure. It's definitely got that like really screamo-y vocals, but there's a lot of that time in the middle of the tracks where it does drop back and go for the more traditional emo sound. So it's actually an interesting release. Like I said, I'm not a big screamo fan. In fact, I would not say I'm a screamo fan at all. It's a music genre that by and large I tolerate. But if a release is good, I can enjoy it. And this is one of them. I don't think there's anything wrong with this album. It's not necessarily, like an album that's going to be like, oh God, I love this album so much. But I get it. So yeah, it's good. It's heavy and it's got the emotion, all of them, all of the really strong ones. So that is the mini album Наша жизнь, только, снится by the group North Migration. Album artwork it's got like the really emo edge with it too. So pretty spot on in that sense. But yeah. Now, we have another EP, and this is by the group Kadjo. This is the EP Volume 1, Pamять, memory, for those of you who don't speak Russian. Last year, Kadjo, in the first quarter, I believe, put out probably one of the best deathcore releases of last year, which is saying a lot because the Russian metal scene has a fair amount of deathcore, probably thanks to... Well, I mean, Slaughter to Prevail is not... they're the most visible one, but the deathcore scene is alive and well in Russia. In fact, more so than the screamo scene. And so releasing a deathcore release here that's like actually grabs your attention and doesn't sound like everyone else is kind of a big deal. Then at the end of last year into the beginning of this year, they released a number of singles, specifically... Psyania, Prigovor, and Agevzia. I actually don't know how you pronounce that word. I have no idea what it means actually in Russian. So, Agevzia. They released those over the end of last year into the beginning of this year, and then they just kind of bundled it all together onto an EP along with the title track Pamять, which is here. And I was expecting this to be just another deathcore release. Oh, there's also these weird 2 little remix tracks. I have no idea what this is about. They don't really, but whatever. They're there, I guess. They're not remixes. It's all just like weird little electronic appendices. But this reminded me. The music here has changed. It is deathcore, but it's what it reminded me a lot of. For anyone who is a metal fan, you're probably familiar with the group In Flames, right? The Gothenburg metal scene, right? And In Flames and At the Gates and was it Dark Tranquility is from there too. Anyway, In Flames was one of those groups that there's very clearly like 2 different eras of their sounds. Adgesia? Maybe adhesion. And there's like the old sound, which is harder. And then there was a certain point in time where they kind of moved into a more mainstream, more radio-friendly sound to appeal to a wider group. And the turning point for In Flames was this album, Reroute to Remain. And I remember when it came out and people lost their shit. They were so pissed. And I'll be honest, like I was not a huge fan of that album because it didn't have that kind of technical, melodic death metal sound that In Flames had kind of been famous for. But looking back on Reroute to Remain now, I recognize it. It's like still not my favorite In Flames album, but I do see what they were doing there, and I think it was good. And that's kind of what is here on this EP, where it's still got the deathcore at the heart of it, but there is a lot of now keyboards and subtle electronics that are there in the background. Kind of gives it a bit more of a alt metal feel, and a bit more of what you might call the more mainstream appeal. But let me just jump into this. Yeah, right. Like it opens up with electronics, which is like it's very alt metal-y right off the bat. Agevsia is polnaya when you lose your sense of taste, like with COVID. Or Alzheimer's, or Parkinson's, or any other sickness. If you can hear, right? So the deathcore is still, it didn't go anywhere. But it's been tempered a little bit. Right? Like the, I don't know, like floating in space thing or whatever. So, but there's still plenty of like that kind of older sound, I guess. Although still very nu metal-y. They themselves say deathcore, nu metalcore, so okay, so you get the idea. Yeah, if you go back and you listen to the release from last year, which was Chapter 5, definitely like harder. You can just tell from the album artwork too. It's got like a very like hardcore type of album artwork, whereas this time around got these kind of soft colors. There's a lot of white space around here. There's a lot of text going on. So I don't know. Maybe the band has done different stuff in the past. I have not gone through their catalog, right? I just know what I heard last year. I know what I'm hearing now. But it's okay. Like, it's good. It's good. It's heavy, but it's also less heavy than what they did last year, but still good. So I appreciate both of them. I don't know. It's good. If you like heavier metal, if you like kind of core metal, metalcore, deathcore, whatever that happens to be, then you'll probably enjoy this. This is Kadjo, it's the group, and this is the EP Volume 1, память. So, yes. Okay. We are out of metal territory, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check my notes here. Basically, kind of. There's a little bit later on, but we're basically out of metal territory. Okay, so this right here is probably technically a single. It's a single right here. But, because it's only 2 tracks, I get it. But these 2 tracks are longer than some of the EPs I've already featured this evening, so I kind of felt like it deserved to be here. Also because it's really, really good. So I'm calling it an EP. I feel like it's earned that. This is Opus 2 by the group Poloz. Poloz, I don't know. Yes, it's a trio out of Kaluga. This is their second release, although their first release was technically just a single track, so this is really just like their first release that's anything more than a single track. And honestly, these guys feel like they've got a lot going on. I wonder if this is... I'll have to look into that in a second. There was another group, Poloz, last year, but they had their name written with Cyrillic letters, but it does kind of look like the same font. I don't know. I'm wondering if maybe they're connected somehow. I'll have to do a little research into that. Anyway, this is a different sound. It's got that really like... Let me just get the music started, okay? Also, great album artwork. I love these like really simple drawings that are still like really evocative in their own way. But yeah, right, it's got that kind of really... This is that post-rock, that kind of powerful, right? It's the type of music that I always... I just want to like drive through some huge open landscape, like without any people, right? Just like you in a car cutting through the wilderness type of thing, or not even the wilderness, but just like through the vast expanses. It's got like the beauty, right, in the sound right here. But there is a darkness, a heaviness here, kind of like the other side of the coin, the light and the dark. Right. So it starts heavy. We move into the post-rock thing. I'm a sucker for post-rock, if you haven't figured it out by now. But there's a lot of post-rock, and a lot of it sucks. It is very stoner in the beginning, but it does not stay like that, yeah. Also, I know the comments are like delayed. I don't know what to do about it, but yeah. So yeah, Kadjo, there definitely is some stoner vibes, some sort, but like it's definitely not stoner rock. It just has those like heavier, fuzzier moments to kind of counterbalance the lighter, more cinematic or like bigger sounding parts of the tracks. As is always the issue with, first of all, instrumental tracks and longer instrumental tracks, it's really hard to highlight this in a way. Like, I can't just play the whole 6-minute track or the whole, well, they're both like 6 minutes long, let's be real. But I feel like this is a pretty good idea. Like, you heard the quiet sections, you heard the sort of like stonery, fuzzy part at the beginning. It flows, but it flows in a way that works. I don't know, it feels very organic. Really good stuff. Really good. So, even though it is just 2 tracks long, 12 and a half minutes, let's be real, that's safe. I'm counting that in EP territory. So, really good release. Still relatively short. It is just 2 tracks. It's just slightly over 10 minutes long. But the price of admission, as I say, is very, very low here. So if you like any sort of post-rock, post-metal, anything that's got fuzzy guitars or light post-rock guitars, or, well, I guess if you like guitar music, then you'll probably enjoy this. It's Poloz, and the release is Opus 2. I guess check it out, whatever. Speaking of kind of stoner rock, this is not quite stoner rock, but this is part 1960s psychedelic rock that kind of feels like it could have existed around the same time, or perhaps on like some alternate stage if it had existed at Woodstock. It's definitely not quite like that, but you get the atmosphere that I'm going for. But it's also got a lot of the sort of blues rock jam session stuff going on here. And there are also some classic hard rock sounds on this album as well. This is obviously music. This is an album that is just steeped in the musical traditions of like the 60s and into the 70s, right? Like the classic rock, the boomer music at this point in time. Although I guess anything that's older than 20 years old is boomer music at this time for certain individuals. But it's that classic sound that has stood the test of time. And it feels like the type of music that people are always going to go back to for good reason. Although I will say they're not just copying the sound, they're definitely doing their own take on it. And there's also a little bit from the, like, you might say late Soviet Union, early Russian rock scene in this sound as well. I should probably mention this is a self-titled album by the group, God help me with their name, Гиперсмей по имени Хлист, which in English is Hyper Snake named Chlist. I don't know what Chlist is. I don't think it's just a name. It's almost certainly not a name. Chlist is like a whip. Yeah. Whip the Hyper Snake? I don't know, whatever. Yeah, it is. It's nice. Yeah. We lean more heavily into like the sort of like just psych jam session here, so they do a good job. They do a really good job with the sound. A little bit more of the sort of classic rock sound you can find a few times throughout the album too. But again, that jam energy, the psychedelic energy is like, that's the heart of the album.
Бросок, прыжок, размах, удар. Бросок, прыжок.
Yeah, I got it, Karozik, but it's you can just relax to it with a fine chamomile tea or whatever other herbal supplements. I mentioned that there was a bit of the how did I say it, sort of blues rock jam type of session. I feel like on tracks like this, you do get a little bit of an idea of what their live sessions might be like. Like, probably there's going to be some canoodling around, but like, I imagine that the types of bars or clubs or whatever where these guys might be playing are probably like, it's like a friendly crowd, so they're just having a good time with everybody out there. But yeah, right, like Вспоминаю твое лицо, right? Almost 10 minutes long, and most of it just feels like half improvised jam session, right? Probably not. They probably did plan it out to some degree, but it does feel like there's a lot of that energy in it ultimately. So it's got a very good sort of classic sound. Whatever you qualify as classify, again, psych rock, that kind of just jam session, the classic rock, the bluesy rock, whatever it happens to be. But it definitely feels of that they are going for that, 1960s into the 1970s kind of classic guitar rock sound. And they do a fine job of emulating it to a degree. So that is the group Гиперзмей по имени Хлист. They've even got like the weird emblem for their group name with the funky text and all of these swirly psychedelic looking things. They even like I'm assuming the lead singer has even got the very loose silk shirt, so they've got the whole look going on. So that is the self-titled album. Yeah, nice stuff. It is. It was quite a surprise. I had no idea what to expect going into an album with artwork like this, but I guess it fit. I should have expected what I was getting into. Moving on, this is a different one. Now, I do want to point out, this looks like a big album, right? You're like, there's 20 tracks on this, but half of this, every odd numbered track, the first one, the third one, the fifth one, the seventh one, right? You can see they're all quite short. Half of the tracks, the odd numbered tracks, are traditional folk stories from the Yamal region of Russia, which is in the north part of Siberia. This album, which it is funded through the government, you can see that right here, при поддержке президентского фонда культурных инициатив. So this is funded partly through government money from the Tyumenskaya Oblast. Their regional budget has something called Creative People, which I think is wild that the Tyumenskaya Oblast has like a music fund, because Muz Lab, which is the name of the collective that put this together or organized it, this is not their first release. I believe this is their third release, if I'm not mistaken. But they also are doing this in conjunction with the National Culture Fund. This is probably one of the best things that the government has spent its money on, at least in the modern arts field in the last few years. So, yeah. But yeah, I felt like I had to mention that just because it's kind of an odd thing. Like, let's be real. I almost certainly would not be talking about government-sponsored music, right? That's not like Shaman. I would rather just not do a stream if that was what it came down to. But this is different. So let me get some of the music started, and then I'll talk a little bit more about it. So in order to record this album, and you can see, like, look at all of the artists on these tracks, right? There are a lot of them. So in order to record the album, in the Tyumenskaya Oblast, they asked a bunch of musicians, or online they asked musicians to apply to take part in a 3-day session where they put a bunch of musicians together in a room and they sat down and they recorded a song. And they were all, this was done after they had sort of gotten to know the Yamal culture a little bit, some of the folk stories, and their song had to be connected to some aspect of Yamal traditional folk culture. The song had to reflect one of these stories. Great concept, right? It got a ton, right? Look at all of the different artists that were involved in this. Artists who you probably would never hear of before or afterwards, or like just, they got a bunch of creative-minded people to come together to make like pretty interesting tracks for the most part about a really interesting, like it's a really interesting uniting concept of a framework that they've got it all in here. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if any of these artists will use this as a launch pad, or if it's just like kind of a thing for people from Tyumen or Novosibirsk or anywhere in that part of Siberia, a chance for them to make a song or two and then go about the rest of their life. But it's good. Musically, traditional music mixed kind of at times with pop music, or as you heard on the last track, that kind of indie electronic sound. Got quite a bit of the throat singing throughout the release as well. And again, between each track, there is a small folk story. If you understand Russian, that's just interesting. You get like these little stories, and then you get like a song comes after it. Even if you don't speak Russian, there is something, again, I think atmospheric about this kind of back and forth. I do like the way that they put it together. I think it works very, very nice as a complete package, and I really love the idea by and large. So yeah, even if you want to ignore the folk stories, right, every other track, you still wind up with 10 songs of, again, kind of like Russian pop or Russian indie electronic music. But they're all, like, realistically well done, so... Maybe a bit generic, but I think I'm able to overlook that just because of the overall package, like the entire thing put together, the idea behind it, just the fact that these are a bunch of artists who I don't know what their musical output, if anything, exists before this. So I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt. I'm overlooking some of the criticisms I might normally have because, like, as a whole, it works. So yeah, that is the album Severny Zbornik, or Northern Anthology, and I don't know if the artist, the project is Moose Lab. But yeah, it's an interesting listen. Again, if you understand Russian, I think the folk stories are really cool. They're folk stories all around the world are kind of the same, let's be real. But some of them are quite interesting. The one, the hell was the one? Pritscha про сироту из рода Vengo was pretty good. It had a little bit of the Kolobok energy, but not quite. So, and honestly, like, I have no idea. I don't know anything about the Yamal region. right? Or the Yamal people. So just getting little glimpses and pieces of it was kind of interesting. So something different for sure. All right, now coming back into more like traditional music, we have t.r.o.e. Don't know if I'm supposed to pronounce it Troje or just t.r.o.e. This is their mini album Pustoye место для оправданий, or a blank space, an empty space for justification. For оправдание would be what's the word for when, like, excuses? I don't know. I cannot translate it into English right now. The group describes their sound as progressive punk / math rock / post-hardcore. The progressive punk thing, definitely you hear a lot right at the start of the release. I'll play it in a second. The speed, though, is there throughout. But the post-hardcore sound is, I think, the genre that I noticed coming up again and again the most throughout the runtime. The math rock one, bit of a question mark for me, not gonna lie. There's a little bit of the emo pop punk energy on the third track as well. Got some slices of metal thrown in there. It's just one of those releases. It's kind of emo-ish, right? Let's be aware. It wears its heart on its sleeve, but the earnestness, it kind of immediately grabs you. It's the kind of album that once, like, you would love to be involved in just like these boisterous sing-alongs, just like, I don't know, maybe drunk, maybe not, maybe at a concert, maybe in a field with friends. It's got like that kind of, like, I don't know, just cathartic, everyone singing together type of energy. Yeah, as I say, it's got enough teeth for those of us who like things heavy, but balanced enough that anyone who likes rock is welcome. This is out of Krasnoyarsk, and it's from a group which hasn't put anything out for a number of years. So yeah, right, the punk energy right from the start. It's got like a very emo piece of album art too, right? There's that metal, just like a sprinkling. We got some of the, wait for it. That sort of pop punk, a little bit that emo-y kind of sound, suburban emo, I don't know what you want to call it, but kind of feel like the claps, it's not the claps, but all right, I gotta jump to the. I think we've reached that moment where Spotify has as Games, Mr. Risa Games said at the beginning. I think this happens from time to time, so I'm gonna reload real fast.
скорой кончиной, я перед тобой, я все еще тут. Давай лучше промолчу, нарисую улыбку на грустном лице. И как всегда я всю суть утаю, так проще будет мне. Я в порядке, да все окей, я в порядке, поверь. Я в порядке, да все окей, я в порядке, поверь. В голове тараканы вершат беглом, разнося все вокруг в щепки и клочья. Мои нервные клетки выходят за хлебом, и не видно их больше. Да я в полном порядке, просто немного устал. И не спросишь с меня взятки гладкие, я снова все прояснил. Я в порядке.
I love like what the guitars are doing on this chorus. It's just solid.
Я в порядке, все окей, я в порядке, поверь.
Anyway, really good album. Really good mini, I guess is what I'm calling it. Really solid, just a fun listen. It's got a lot of energy, a lot of heart, and I don't know. I had a lot of good times with the albums this week. Like they're not to say that any of these are like just completely mind blowing, right? A lot of them are pretty straightforward, pretty basic. A lot of the rock stuff is kind of what you would expect, kind of more traditional, modern rock of one subgenre or another. But they're all so tight. They're all like relatively short, which probably helps. But I don't know. It's just, and I don't know. I had a really good time with this album. This is the mini album "Пустое место для оправданий" by the group t.r.o.e. or Трёх, which is, I'm guessing, how they probably would pronounce it. But okay. Moving on, we have a group's name who, if you are to believe the whispers on YouTube, I should not pronounce aloud, but it is Suicide Hotline with their EP SH3. This is a group. Listen, I love Kaliningrad. I've been to Kaliningradskaya Oblast a number of times. I would love to go back again this year. I think it's great. I love that Baltic vibe. Just like a really, really cool place to visit. So when music comes out of that area, that exclave or Jesus Christ, the exclave of Kaliningrad, I'm always interested. So we got a punk group here. It's been around for about 20 years. With the first decade of their existence, they were performing under a different name. But Suicide Hotline, that iteration of the group, has been around for another, like the last decade. They've only put out a handful of EPs. But the sound on this release, on this EP, kind of shows that they're not rusty at all. It's the classic suburban punk sound. Songs are basically all focused on supporting the people around you, not letting the shit in the world, the wars, the strife, just the everyday grind kind of bring you down. It's focused on the fact that people are inherently good. Life is beautiful, right? As banal as that may sound. Kind of rebellion, but in the face of stress and apathy. And it's got just, honestly, I love the artwork. It's simple. It's very much a product of Kaliningrad, right? Like it's by the seaside. It's got the dunes, but really nice. Let me just get into it. It's also, there's a lot of focus on the love of punk music in general, especially on the final track, Best Music. promise there are lyrics.
Отчаяние, бессилие и страх. Я помню, ты устала с моего отца в глазах. И как им сложно было с мамой в те серые дни. Но я знаю, что я рос в настоящей любви. И сейчас мы никак не можем передаваться.
Just one more little sample here, I think. Again, it's kind of that punkorama type sound, right? Epitaph Records. So yeah, really, really positive, really upbeat, kind of again like that suburban punk. Again, if you could understand the lyrics, talking about like 3-year-old daughter, his friends being with him, just like the good things in life. It's just focused on the positivity. And again, I think the album artwork reflects that pretty well in a quiet, subtle way. So that is the group Suicide Hotline with their EP SH3. And we have reached the tab limit. Okay, this is the final bit of metal, I will say. I said there was a little bit more. This is the album Рассвет by the group Circletimik. Circletimik. I don't know. I think that's how they want to pronounce it. I saw some people hating on this release because it's just a duo. There's a guitarist and then the vocalist. And then the bass guitar and the drums are all programmed on computer. I don't know if they do it themselves or if it's done through AI. It sounds like they program it themselves, right? But like it's a 2-man group, but they do the rhythm section kind of program-wise because it's just 2 of them. And it feels dumb for people to like hate on that when GarageBand has been a thing that has existed for decades now, and people have made entire albums in the solitude of their like the bedroom, and nobody blinks an eye at that. So I don't know why the metal scene has to hate on their own for using that same technology, because it's one of those things where like I don't know if the group gains some popularity, they start to gain traction, they might actually be able to find a bassist or a drummer that can then fill in, and kind of then the group can begin to evolve a little bit. Like for just 2 guys who are doing what they love, clearly like they want to make metal, I think there's no problems with that. Okay, now musically, what do we have? Alt metal with a nice mix of cleans, some raspy. There are some djenty style riffs, a lot of new metal influence in there. The singing is a bit forced at times in the sense of it doesn't quite line up with the tracks perfectly. But again, it's a 2-man project. It's relatively new, so kind of feels like one of those things where they, maybe haven't quite hit their stride yet. And going back to the subject of vocals, I do feel like the singer here could probably use a little bit of some training as well. But yeah, I mean, again, just like 2 guys sort of threw this together in their spare time, I'm assuming. So I don't really have... It's definitely one of those that kind of like the Nocow Vast Infinities EP that we started this evening with. When I first listened to it, it was just like, it's okay, but it's not really for me. But I also wasn't ready to just sort of write it off, which is, there are certain albums I listened to the first time, I'm just like, yeah, no, this is shit. And it's just gone. Like, I'm not coming back to it. There's other albums where I listen to it and it's just like, I'm not sure. And I typically back away from it. Like, this is from January, right? January 15th. So I heard this a while ago. And that's why this last week was just like, I'm going to give it another try. I want to come back to it. And it worked, right? Like, whatever my brain needed, whatever connections needed to happen in my brain, my thought process had congealed. And it was just like, oh, okay, I get it now. So yeah. But yeah, honestly, the vocals, for the most part, are fine here, right? Like, I don't have any problems with this. I feel like it works. There are those djenty guitars that I was talking about. But that new metal, alt metal is ultimately the core sound here. Right, like, there are still some awkward moments throughout it, but like, it's okay. And just in terms of the different kind of alt metal, new metal sounds that we've heard, even like in the course of a single track, it does switch up relatively quickly and frequently. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, I'm not a singer, right? I'm not gonna pretend like I could sing better than this. Just a little bit, just like a little practice maybe would kind of put it to where it needs to be. So yeah, it's a bit awkward. There are a few rough things here and there, right? Everything is not perfect on this, but I think for just two guys who, even though they were missing realistically half of a band, they were just like said, fuck it. And they just sat down and went with what they had and then got on the computer, or I don't know, like, I don't make music on the computer. I don't know how it works, but like, it doesn't sound like AI drums and bass. It sounds like something that's pretty, like, the fills are way too solid for that, or like just in general how it all goes. So it's good stuff. I don't know. It's like I said, it's not perfect, but it's pretty damn good, all things considered. So if you enjoy, again, that kind of like alt metal, new metal sound, like a little bit of the gent style riffs in there from time to time, then I would give this a shot. I think you'll probably find something here. Like I said, first time going through, it was a bit I didn't quite get it, but it definitely grew on me. And yeah, it's one of those albums that it's not perfect, but there's a lot of really good stuff happening on it. So that is Рассвет by the group Circletimik. Timik. Yeah, Рассвет is dawn, sunrise. So, okay, final three. Final three are all different. We're going to start with this mini album here by Arthur the Author. This is House Under Spire. Arthur the Author is somebody I featured at least once last year. At that point in time, his sound was a bit more jazz, a bit more trip hop. This is not that. Dead Ringer by RJD2 was one of those albums that just completely changed like the hip hop game in the sense of like instrumental hip hop, right? It wasn't a rap album because there really weren't any vocals on it. It wasn't an electronic album because it was very clearly rooted in hip hop. My brain is blanking because I'm out of coffee right now and it's 11:15. Hip hop, like the Jesus Christ. The core sound, I'm just going to default to like my base level language stuff here. The core sounds, the core elements of hip hop elements is probably the word I was looking for. Anyway, Dead Ringer, fantastic albums, kind of changed a lot in the electronic and the hip hop instrumental scene. Still holds up 20 years later. A lot of this album feels like Dead Ringer. It feels like there's a lot of that energy, that DNA on this release. There is still definitely the jazzy and the trip hop influence here as well. But yeah, the Dead Ringer thing, whether intentional or not, is definitely a key component. So yes, this is that kind of instrumental hip hop style beats, which is kind of a weird thing. It's like the type of music that I wouldn't normally feature, I guess, because it feels like so much of it is made nowadays, especially with AI. But this, I don't know. It feels like there was some actual thought and consideration put into the overall sound and atmosphere of various tracks. Although the album artwork does kind of feel like it maybe was AI, so, just kind of... Oh, I did have coffee left. I just poured water into it. Okay. Vocal samples, the just in general the kind of samples that are throughout here, really you get that kind of jazzy atmosphere, which, like I said, was more present. It was more dominant on the releases that I heard from him last year. In fact, I even for sure featured one of them, but here they're playing more of a supporting role, which I think overall works out for the best. So yeah, this is the mini album here, House Under Spire, and the artist is Arthur, the author. So just a nice instrumental kind of hip hop, electronic type of thing. But I don't know. I found myself, I had it on repeat for a while, and it got under my skin, I guess is what I'll say. So a nice one. Okay, we are moving further and further into strange territory. Up next, we have the album Igrisha by the artist Zadача Трёх, the three body problem. This is also, I have no idea what this album artwork is. I know it's like some sort of relief map, but I don't know what this is supposed. It's just like I have so many questions about it, but that's good. It fits the overall sound of this album, which is psychedelic noise rock. It's got a bit of stoner metal, and there's a lot of improv in the DNA here as well. It's a debut album, kind of finds that delicate balance between the heavy, fuzzy rock that feels like it was recorded on technology from half a century ago. And then there are those moments where it's like the cleaner sound kind of flirts with the art rock, math rock sound. There's also the track Iya Ion, which is just basically like this psychedelic jam rock session. So it's different from Gipersme, who we listened to earlier, and I think you'll hear that right away. I'm going to start with the fuzzier end of things. So been a lot of guitar music this time around. Just, I don't know. Wait a minute. So yeah, psychedelic noise rock, right? That kind of fits, right? That's not... Yeah. But hold on, am I hallucinating? Are my notes messed up? Maybe, hold up. No, 3. Okay, 3. But yeah, there are those songs that feel a little cleaner in terms of their overall sound. I will be completely honest, the first time I tried listening to this album, I made the huge mistake, which is, and I know this, I know you can't do this, but like, I was doing something and I had my phone with me and I was just like, I'll just play it through the shitty little tin can speaker on the bottom of my phone. And so of course with all of the fuzz, it sounded god awful. I was like, this sucks. Like, what is this? But I was like, you know what? Maybe it's the phone speaker. That's probably what it is. Do not listen. Like, listen to this in headphones or like on an actual set of speakers. You can hear specifically in the drum fills, like, that improv nature. So, So there's a little bit of that free-spirited energy here as well. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of the tracks that have that heavier, just like stoner fuzz energy. But there are other ones too where like, it's noisy. It's always like, again, I said it's noise rock. It's psychedelic noise rock. So yeah, you can't get away from that. Those drums are not letting down at any sort. Like they're pretty much busy throughout the entire album. But it's that chaotic energy that kind of keeps, I don't know, keeps things moving along and keeps you from tuning out a little bit, I guess. It's noise rock. It's psychedelic noise rock. It's a very kind of niche sound, and if somebody tried to sell me on the idea of psychedelic noise rock, I'd be like, I don't know, that sounds like something you kind of maybe just made up, and also not necessarily. Well, I'm glad Karozik here is loving it. And here's the thing, right? This is the second to last album, right? I really liked this album, and it's one of the ones that I listened to later in the week. I heard it and just stuck with me immediately. It's good. It's chaotic. It's noisy. But it's also in control. Like, these guys, or these individuals, know what they're doing. This is not... it's not just sound. It's organized chaos. And for a debut, it's impressive, I guess is what I would say. So, I'll leave it there. You get the idea. I do think even if you aren't, the jazz drumming and everything like that, with just he's just like all over the place, doing the whiplash thing, right? He's just all over the place. It's good. It's even if it's not exactly your sound, I would still say like give it a shot, because it's, first of all, there are lyrics. Obviously, people do sing on the album, but it's very clearly not like one of the key components. It comes up from time to time. For the most part, it is just the instruments, the guitars and the drums and the bass just kind of going at it. Just basically everyone doing their best to, I don't know, completely destroy their fingers and hands. So really interesting release, I guess is what I would say. That is Igrisha by the group Задача, Трёх. Okay, now the last one was one that I didn't know what to do with. It's an hour and a half long. I don't even know how to properly pronounce. The album is Slow Changes. The group is Samoilovoi. I don't know. Even if I saw this in Russian, Samoilovoi, it doesn't mean anything as far as I can tell. Maybe it is the reindeer. I mean, like, it could be one of those words from Karelia, right? Like from the Finnish languages. I don't know. Samoilovoi or Samoilovoi. I don't know how to say it. Samoilovoi. I don't know what to make of it. Anyway, beyond the difficulty with the title, this is one of those weird releases that I feel like I have to talk about from time to time. This exists at the juncture between ambient music, post-rock, and jazz improv. And if that feels like it's going to be unlistenable, you'd actually be like really wrong. It's a long release, right? It's an hour and a half long. The tracks are long. This is another one of those things where it's like really hard for me to feature this, to show this in any sort of meaningful way, because the shortest track is 5 minutes long. But the majority of them are like 8, plus minutes long. And because they're so long, the tracks are never in a hurry to get to the next idea, right? It almost feels like I said, there's this sort of jazz improv idea here. And it does maybe feel like when they were recording this, they just kind of were playing music and they just were improvising a little bit along the way. The result is this music that is at times very melodic. At times it's pretty bouncy and playful. At other times it's just really spacious and reflective in this very kind of epic, look at the night sky type of way. But it is over such a long period of time that it moves and transforms so slowly. These changes are so slow, right? Get it? Slow changes, that I don't know, it's just one of those albums that you kind of get into. It's an hour and a half long. It's not an easy listen. I listened to this 2 or 3 times. I don't know, because again, it's hard to keep track because there's no real clear end or beginning a lot of the times. I know there are times where I was listening to this, I was just like, what track is this? And then I looked and I was like, it's the same track I was just listening to like 5 minutes ago, but this feels like something completely different. This is both very, very relaxing. So it's the type of music that you could try to like fall asleep to or just sort of disconnect from everything to. But there's also enough going on that it's going to keep you engaged. It's going to like kind of keep dragging you back in and not fully letting you go. I honestly do not know where to start, so I'm just going to start. Why would I start with the longest track? No, let's not do that. Start with this. Post-rock guitar. Weird, like, I'm assuming that's a stand-up bass with a bow that's being played. Also, I don't know what's up with the album artwork, but I do kind of love it. Just a reindeer who is as confused by what's going on as I am, but also not particularly worried about it. I just want to jump ahead. Okay, so that's 3.5 minutes into it. So this is what I meant when I said, like, it kind of felt like at times when they were recording this, they just kind of abandoned whatever they were doing and waited a little bit until the next idea came to them. But it does eventually come. And again, like when you jump into these sections, it feels very abrupt, but over these long run times, you don't really notice. It's like I don't know, it's just like any sort of really gradual change where you don't really pay attention to it happening. And then I guess the ending to this one is kind of it's an oddball release. Bongos, I guess.
Забыл сказать, что вот эта лампа выключилась
Like, very clearly just recording everything that was going on. This is a very odd release. It's a very unusual one. There are sections on this album that, if you're not ready for it, might even be a little bit aggravating. It never gets aggressive with the oddness, but if you're looking for something that is definitely going to be melodic all the way through, or really have a very clear trajectory music-wise, then this is probably not for you at that specific point in time. But I don't know, there was something about this that just, I kind of like this section right here. All those weird little electronic noises in the background, kind of annoying. But like that, together with, again, the post-rock guitar, with whatever the hell the drums are doing right now, like kind of building up to something, maybe, I don't know. It works. I'm curious to see where they go with it. Even though I have listened to this more than once, I don't remember where it goes, because there's nothing to latch on to, and that's, I guess, fine. It is ultimately an album that you just have to put on and let play out. You can't expect anything of it. It will reveal moments to you little by little. It will, sometimes you'll hear things on the first listen that catch your attention, but then the second time through, you won't necessarily be so focused on them because you'll have latched on to something else. This is one of those albums that I think kind of really depends too on your headspace, right? Like what you're doing, what mood you're in, and I don't know. It's one of those musical releases where you kind of project yourself onto it as well, but not in the same way of like instrumental rock where you're like you can like do some activity. This is much more passive in this regard, right? It's a tough sell. It's an even tougher sell than the last album with the psychedelic noise rock. But if you've got the patience and you're good with like post-rock or ambient music or jazz and just odd kind of experimental music in general, music for musicians, I don't even think it's, I mean, I think this is just, it's not even music for musicians. I think this is more just one of those things where it was artists playing with space more than anything, because that's one of the key elements there, space and time. Like the title Slow Changes is not a mistake, right? It very accurately describes this album. It is an album of change, and it's going to come very slowly. And if you're willing to slow down, then yeah, there's something that you can engage with here. But again, it's an hour and a half. It's one of those things that you have to, I mean, granted, you don't have to listen to the whole thing all the way through, but like even the first two tracks, you're at 22 minutes or whatever. So it's a very unusual album, but it's also one of those albums that I do think like I'll be able to put on at any time and kind of like listen to it. This is the type of thing, again, like right now, man, I could go to sleep listening to this, but then I know it would wake me up like 10 minutes later, so I'm not going to do that. Anyway, very different album. But I also like this type of stuff, and I think if you're into a wide variety of music, then I think this is one of those things that you should, I don't know, bookmark or set aside for, I don't know, maybe the end of the day. Wait for the warmer weather to come out, when you can sit on a porch or on a balcony or just with an open window and kind of enjoy the sunset, the slow change as the day shifts into night, or whatever the hell other analogy you want to make with it. But I don't know. I really enjoyed this, even though it's kind of odd, and I do think it's a good one. So I'm gonna stop yammering, and I feel like I'm feeling like the reindeer right about now. So okay, we're gonna wrap it up. But yeah, that is that. 13 releases, a bit more. I'm gonna be completely, OST music. It does at times feel a little bit like I said. It has a bit of the ambient post rock atmosphere at times. In fact, it is largely ambient post rock, like somewhere between those two. Like at times it's a bit more post rocky, especially with the guitars. Other times it's a bit more ambient, with just the sort of reverb and electronics. But then there are just those weird jazzy improv. It's like the stand-up bass, the bongos, because it's just like, hey guys, what do we got in the studio back there? Like, yeah, just bring it all out. We'll play all of it today. And it's like, I guess that's kind of what's fun about it as well too. Anyway, with 13 releases, I should say, like another 5 that I was ready. I needed to just go through and listen to one more time to like get my notes all figured out, and I just didn't do it because I didn't have the time to do that, and I clearly would not have had the time to put it all into this stream. So I guess that's good news for me. I already have a head start on next week, but yeah, it's been interesting. Now that we are into the third month of the year, this is week 10. Although granted, like the first 2 or maybe 3 weeks, I was still listening to stuff from 2025. But yeah, that's beside the point. It's interesting because there have been a lot of good releases so far this year, but it's like I haven't heard anything necessarily. There are definitely a few releases that stick to mind, like kind of personal favorites, but it doesn't really feel like there's been anything that is just like a wow moment for me, or even just in general, like from what I've seen from people's reactions online. So maybe March will be the month where we get some like absolute solid releases. I don't know. I mean, as it is, I'm glad that things have been kind of quiet. It gives me a little bit of a chance to go back and sort through some of the older releases that I ignored or didn't get around to at the time. So, and there's been some interesting stuff there. So anyway, hopefully there's been some good stuff. I feel like t.r.o.e, you definitely, you heard some stuff that was up your alley, so that's always good. But yeah, I'll be back next Thursday. More music, you know how it is. Everyone have a good evening or afternoon or morning or night, or whatever time of the day it happens to be where you are. Take care of yourselves. I will see you when I see you, and until then, paka paka.